Welcome, everyone. This is the Ins Justify the Memes, the show where the lowest of the low, that is the most wretched of wretched, and deplorable to end all deplorables. Two white heterosexual Christian males from the American South talk about culture, philosophy, history, health, and what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I'll be your host, Bill, and this is my producer and co-host, Tank. So crack open a beer and lend us your ear, because the ends always justify the memes. Sorry, I rushed that. It looks like on the stream I'm a black screen right now.
Oh, I can see it.
See if that brings it back at all. So sorry, Michael, I did not introduce you, but this is the third time on the show. The last time we had a bunch of technical difficulties. This is Michael Witcoff, an author and advocate of Orthodox Christianity, and we got connected because I saw him on Robin Riley a while back, and I really wanted to pick his brain about these things. So we're going to keep it pretty straight religious for the first part of the show till he gets out of here. And yeah, man, I got pure darkness on my end.
Uh-oh.
What is up with that, guys?
You know, it's okay that you didn't introduce me because I've been learning how to handle insults and humiliation with grace. So thank you for the opportunity to practice my spiritual edification.
Well, do please enlighten us on that.
Well, there was just the Greek Film Festival put out this amazing movie earlier this week, on Sunday actually, called Man of God, about Saint Nectarios the Wonder Worker, who was running a convent on the island of Aegina out in Greece. Incredible movie, and the guy was basically persecuted and slandered and was falsely accused throughout his entire ministry as a bishop. And just seeing the way that he handled it with such dispassion really was really humbling and edifying to watch. So since Sunday, for 4 days, I've been trying to handle insults in a holier way. So it's perfect timing.
It's hard to do.
Very.
You know, yeah. I mean, just especially when you're doing something like this, where you're on camera and you're doing live streams or like this YouTube stuff, and you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position already. And then and luckily no one like really gets on there and insults us or anything. Not, at least when they do, it's in a fun way.
Right.
But you know,
just
it
wait
sucks.
till your platform gets bigger. Trust me.
I know. Yeah. Like, who's that guy with the weird mustache and the hair?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you know, and I hate it. Like, that's one of the reasons why I got off social media, was because it was really rough for me to be on social media and then get to like these stupid internet debates and arguments and stuff that you have with people, with someone you don't even know. You know, your existence does not matter to them and they're yours. You know, and then you get like all worked up, like arguing with these guys, and this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this? Yeah. So I don't know. It's definitely something we could all learn a little bit, is how to handle being insulted.
Yeah.
Do you feel like our generation's worse about it than our parents' generation?
Well, I mean, they used to duel when someone got insulted.
Yeah. Okay.
You defend your honor.
Culture.
Yeah,
we have an honor culture, right? Now we have a victimhood culture.
So it wouldn't deteriorate into name calling. It was usually like, well, you insulted my honor, now we're going to fight. You know, there was some sort of nobility to that. But really, it's funny that we bring this up today. So I just splurged $140 on this set, the Prologue of Orid, that has every single day. It's the saints of the day, a homily, a scripture meditation, everything. And today was the one, I forgot what book of the Bible it's from, about how my grace is sufficient for you. So as long as you're trying to stay in a graceful spirit, so to speak, and have grace intermingling with your soul, then when the insults come, you don't even have to consciously think about handling it properly, because you just kind of automatically will. So I think the key to doing it well is to just stay in a prayerful and dispassionate state. Mm-hmm. But yeah, especially on the internet, there's this whole blood sports culture where the whole point of it is to just yell at each other for an hour and a half. And it might be fun, but it's not very good for you, I don't think.
Yeah, well, and it's, for me anyway, it's not even fun anymore. It's not even fun to listen to anymore. Like, I used to tune into some of these things, these guys be arguing, like having at it. And I do enjoy a nice actual intellectual discussion about something where people are on opposing sides or whatever. But for every one of those, there's 50 of these blood sport yelling at each other. The one time we had a guy come on here on one of our live streams and for the call-in show, and it turned into like this big yelling argument, and I really wanted to hear where the dude was coming from, but he doesn't come. He's not from a place where disagreements are met sincerely. Like we're like,
he was a disingenuous actor.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
he was a sophist.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
And you see that usually when somebody has something to sell, and not necessarily monetarily, but some kind of like ideology to, try to get followed. That's really when they seem to get the most violence, not the word, but harsh with everything.
Well, it is a sort of violence, I suppose, like a psychological, emotional violence.
Well, isn't that? I think Justin Martyr said that the only violence that we're allowed to use now are our words for Christians. So, I mean, you could definitely psychologically tear someone down. That's, I think, what the whole thing with harsh language is about, not using it. Or James talks about bridling your tongue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very important. Very important. I've been very consistently surprised by the amount of cursing that goes on, even in some Christian circles, some Christian channels. Guys that are just cursing every other sentence or multiple times a sentence. I don't get it, but you gotta read the Epistle of James.
I'm guilty.
I told
hey, we're all sinners, Tech.
Right.
As long as you know you're a sinner, that's the key.
Right. I told him, I said, dude, it's up to you. You do what you want, but let's be respectful. The thing is we both come from these backgrounds of these, like I try to refrain from using profanity on here or in general. It's not like I don't, but, I try not to make that my just every other word speech. But when you come from a background, it's like military and law enforcement stuff.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
My friends that I know that curse the most are Marines. So even though they're Orthodox, so I understand. Yeah, you're surrounded by that constantly, day in and day out. Like I guess you gotta push back on your battle buddies when they're cursing at you and insulting you. You got to keep your blade sharp. Like I understand it.
I remember when my parents picked me up from boot camp when I graduated, and were bringing me home, and I'm just telling them they're asking me about. I'm telling them about boot camp, and they use the euphemism "freaking" all the time. And like every other word out of my mouth was like freaking this, freaking that, freaking. Because it was 3 months of that. It was 3 months of my brain being inundated with that,
Yeah.
So
it was actually, I didn't even think about swearing. Like when I was a Protestant for a year and a half or so, never thought about it once. I would swear, joke, whatever. And it was actually my Benedictine mentor, a priest of a Western Rite parish, at one of our Society of St. Benedict meetings was talking about not cursing and not mocking people, not making jokes at other people's expense, which I did all the time. That was like my main source of amusement, was making fun of other people, never really realizing what I was doing until he brought it to my attention. So just for the last few years, I've been making an effort to not do that stuff. I still do every once in a while, but just cross yourself and
and what do you get out of it? Like when you are like just belittling someone out of humor or whatever, and like I said, I'm as guilty as anybody. It doesn't better your life. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't really. The only thing it is this way to find amusement at someone else's. Yeah,
it's like a way to give yourself a little status boost or a little value boost at somebody else's expense. But Christ never did that.
Yeah, right. And we shouldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, when he was calling people names, it was for a reason, like root of vipers, den of thieves. It wasn't to make himself look better in the eyes of the listeners. It was for a purpose.
Right. Yeah. And even when he did that, he said, but you people follow what the Pharisees and the Sadducees say anyways. You follow them because they're the authority. Yeah. So even though I'm sitting there chastising them for their wickedness, you still need to listen because they're the authority. Mm-hmm. I was about to say a lot of the early church writers didn't have so kind words about certain things either. So they were as good as Christ, but they have some pretty harsh language in some of their writings.
They do. And I've seen people sometimes appeal to that to defend their own use of very harsh anger. But we got to remember the church fathers weren't perfect any more than anybody else is,
Exactly.
Even Evagrius, who ended up anathematized because he was preaching Origenistic heresies about the pre-existence of the soul and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He taught a lot of the monks, and a lot of Orthodox monasticism came from his teachings because he was so good at being a monk in a certain sense. Even he said, this guy who spent all of his time with other monks, he's never met somebody who was perfectly dispassionate. So just because church fathers lost their temper doesn't mean that it justifies our also doing it. But yes, certainly when you read like Adversus Judaeus by St. John Chrysostom or something, there's a lot of very harsh language going on there.
My main problem, and I've talked this with my priest, is I'm so cynical, and it's so easy for me to become just like, at the drop of a hat, I go completely like cynicism. Just, no one is good for anything. We're all worthless, or in some cases, and I just get so, and it's a very angry kind of cynicism that I have to deal with. I don't, and I mean, what do you think about that? Is that something that you feel like is common, more common maybe than it used to be, or?
Well, I think there's a lot of, so basically any passion you want to have, you could justify. I think it's very easy to justify our own sins or our own errors, and especially when our country is falling apart the way that it is, there's 1,000 reasons to be cynical, right? And if you read St. Augustine's book, City of God, he wrote this 1,000-page book to address people who were very cynical about God because Rome had fallen. So they were saying, hey, we adopted Christianity and then the empire fell, at least the west half of the empire fell. So why should we believe in any of this? Was basically the argument that he was addressing or writing against. So I think at certain points of history, certain cycles, it makes more sense, or at least could be better justified to be cynical about stuff. And the point that he makes in that book, and that is made all throughout the Old Testament, is when an empire falls, it's because God has willed it to fall, largely because they've apostatized already. So I think a lot of people get the order wrong, where they think, oh, our country's being attacked by this group or that group or this subversive thing or that subversive thing, and therefore it's hindering our spirituality, which is true to some extent, but it also goes in the other direction, which is that in the Old Testament, every single time, when the people of Israel, the chosen people, apostatize from God, they turn their back on him to follow their own desires or their idols, he raises up a pagan nation to destroy them or to enslave them, just to teach them a lesson.
And this is a point I make a lot to Christians, because a lot of Christians walk around today and they think, well, I'm good. I can just do whatever because I got Jesus. He's my buddy. And it's like, if God would say that he had a chosen people, the emissaries of his word, to bring in Christ onto the earth, if he would punish them as harshly as he did over and over again, what do you think he will do to you now that you have more, far more than they ever have? You have the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, God himself in your being. What do you think God will do? I know what he'll do, because he says he'll cast you into outer darkness.
Yeah.
So
just because you're on the right team doesn't mean that you're going to be free of suffering or pain. It's another point St. Augustine makes in City of God, is he says, well, suffering is different depending on the person. Like one person could suffer because they've sinned. Another person could suffer because it's medicine for them that God has given them to get them to focus more on him and less on their own health, making an idol of their own health. Like there's 1,000 different reasons.
Well, there's Jonah and the whale. My wife was saying she never actually went through that. She grew up Catholic, but she said she never went through that before until the other day. And she was talking about it. She goes, I didn't realize that the whole story. She's like, I just kind of remember as a kid, Jonah, the whale. I didn't realize that he didn't want to go prophesy to these people he didn't like. And I said, well, the bigger part of that is because he didn't listen to God. God gave him a really hard time.
Yeah, he thought he could run away from God, run away from his calling. And no, God says, you spare the rod, spoil the child. And we're the children of God, and he loves us. So by his own logic, if he doesn't chastise us when we're screwing up, then he's not being loving, right? Well, so of course he's going to chastise us.
Was that me?
I froze?
Either one of you froze on my end.
Oh, Bill, you're spreading fake news here. Can you hear us?
Did
Bill's computer just
I guess so. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Rip.
All right.
See, God is chastising Bill. I don't know what Bill's been up to between last time we talked and now, but God's giving him the rod.
Is my audio here?
Yeah, your audio is fine.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's earlier today. Honestly, man, I feel like it's more of Satan trying to fight against us, like you mentioned last week, and trying to have this conversation. Today I was going to talk about godly relationships and men and women, and how men are the head and should be leading, and how our society is upside down. And my OBS system just wouldn't work. I don't know what's going on with my computer. I've never had this bad of issues. If I do, it's usually my internet. My internet's fine. So maybe he is chastising me, but I've been on my knees a lot praying, and a lot of contemplation and just I don't know, bolstering up my spirit. And also, I prayed before the stream because I wanted us to have a fruitful conversation. And but you know what, Michael, I'm not going to say you're not right. Maybe I did something wrong.
No, I mean, I was just joking. It might be it might be Satan trying to hinder it. It might be God chastising it, or it might just be tech issues that are happening for computer related reasons. I don't know.
Well,
what is that image that you have on your screen, Bill?
Oh, well, that is from so Heterodox Academy. It was an organization that Jonathan Haidt came up with, and they reprinted a section of John Stuart Mill's On Liberty. And I basically, I mean, I'm not doing this for like profit or anything. I basically just use the artwork. I like it because it's a shame about talking. That's where I get the name All Minus One, because the beginning sentence of that passage of On Liberty is, if all mankind minus one were of one opinion, different than the rest of mankind, he would be no less right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or they would have no right to oppress him because they're the majority. So it's the whole point of free speech and everything. Eventually, if I grow big enough, I'm going to have to update it because it's, it is someone else's artwork, but I do give it all due homage. So
cool. Yeah, I forgot which Roman emperor it was. Might have been Marcus Aurelius, that said the goal of life is to find yourself not amongst the ranks of the insane, like the masses. Right. One of them said that, which I always thought was pretty accurate.
He was the one that wrote. He was the Stoic, right? The one that wrote Meditations.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he killed a bunch of Christians, but he did have some good quotes outside of that we would agree with. Stuff like that, I think. If you consider the ranks of the insane to be the unsaved and the condemned, then yes, that would be.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, I don't know if they're calling you insane. You might be correct in anything you're saying. But talking about cynicism again, my Orthodox friend, I saw him over the weekend, and we were talking about, or in the past we were talking about my cynicism. Like, dude, I'm just a very cynical person, in general. Like, it's hard for me to have hope. And he said, "Well, dude, look at it like this. This isn't going to sound as good to anyone who's not Orthodox, but he's like." Orthodox Christianity, so from our perspective, true Christianity didn't even get to the United States until relatively recently. So
that's true.
Yeah, we're on the upswing. Basically, it was his argument.
You've only been here a couple hundred years.
Yeah, so he's like, no, bro, it just get a little time to grow. I was like, okay, well, that's a pretty good way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
speaking of which, Michael, just real quick, we can go back to that. But I was just wondering if you've read this in any way.
I cannot see anything happening on your screen. You
cannot?
So I don't know what you're holding up.
Oh, it's Orthodoxy in the Kingdom of Satan by Father.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What did you think of this? I haven't gotten through it yet.
It's great. I bought that book for my girlfriend a couple months ago. And it's one of the books that, so as an author on Amazon will show you what your book is often purchased with. And that and Nihilism by Father Seraphim Rose are the two books that people most often buy my Mason book with, which is an incredible honor, frankly. But no, I love Father Spiridon. He's great. His YouTube channel is great. And I thought he had a really clear understanding of the workings of Luciferianism in the government and the culture based on what I saw in that book of his. I thought it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was over on my channel. I need to get back to finishing it, but my separate channel, All Minus One, I was reading Nihilism by Seraphim Rose, and very impressed by it.
He's probably going to be a saint. I mean, the wheels are in motion for that, for sure.
Good, and but very impressed by the beginning of it. The only conflict I had was over monarchism, but that could be a debate we could talk about, because I believe that God only wants us to have one king, and that is Christ. So, but from what I've read so far, it's an excellent essay.
Well, I can tell you that Lactantius, who was St. Constantine's political philosopher, as well as Eusebius, who wrote the history of the church later,
right?
Their argument for monarchy was that it's the government style that most closely reflects the government of heaven. So that has traditionally been the Orthodox view, even though modern Orthodox, a lot of them have gone into democracy and stuff like that. But if you look
I don't want democracy necessarily. Yeah, democracy not necessarily either, but more of the way it originally was before the Kingdom of Israel asked for a king from God, and then Samuel had to tell him what a king would bring. And I believe having a monarchy is a choice of being like the rest of the world, and we should be able to live separately. I don't know enough about the Amish, but I don't think that they have any sort of monarchical organization within themselves. They just kind of work with their own councils and stuff of how they deal with folks inside their community, and that I believe that's more what God intended for us, just like the original judges of Israel. You know.
Well, that's the argument made. I'm blanking on the author's name. In the beginning of our Documents of Revolution, the creation of America, that was Thomas Paine. He used that same argument that we should go back to how it was before the Jews asked for the king. But back then, there was also, it was the religion and the state were one thing, which has never really been the Orthodox view. So the Orthodox view traditionally in terms of politics has been what's called symphonia, which is that you have a church which is led by patriarchs, but they rule in a conciliar fashion. So the church is a monarchy under Christ, and it rules in a conciliar fashion between the patriarchs, just like in Acts 15, the Council of Jerusalem. But they have worked with whatever the form of government is in the world around them. So it's kind of like Augustine has the city of God and the city of man, where the city of man is what politics and culture and all this belongs to, and then the city of God is the church and the saved people, right, or those being saved. So the Orthodox have never really believed in theocracy in terms of like an Orthodox king ruling over everything by himself. It's usually the heads of the church or the patriarch of a region working with the leadership, which traditionally was monarchy. But then even once monarchy has passed in a lot of places, they just work with the heads of state, where the church doesn't try to become the state, which is a big difference between Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism,
Right.
where the Pope, literally has something called the Papal States for 1,000 years, 800 years, something like that, where he wanted to be the government, where he thought emperors should all submit to him. He was the only one that could depose emperors. Like the Catholic popes gave themselves all kinds of powers and temporal powers and secular powers that were not ever part of ancient Christianity that the Orthodox still don't have.
Yeah, no, I 1000% agree with that, and that's always a part of my railing against the papacy. That and the blasphemous position of being the vicar of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they have no good, like, the more you understand about the history of the church, the more obvious it becomes that all of the papal doctrines were both innovations unknown to the ancient Christians and or based on forgeries. Thousands of pages of forged documents giving the Pope special powers. And the problem is that Ubi Petrus's YouTube channel does a lot of good work on this, really good stuff. Even once the documents were shown to be forgeries, they had already worked themselves into the canons of the Roman Catholic Church. And so once the documents are shown to be forgeries, they don't leave the canons. They're still part of the organization, was the problem. So he makes a really good point in several of his videos where he says, if you have the deed to a house, you don't have to forge a deed to that house. You already own it. So he says, why would the Pope have to keep making up all these documents or having his guys make up all these documents about his power if he actually had the power in the first place? And the truth is he never had those powers. He just really wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't see any direct lineage all the way back to Peter either, as far as I can tell when you dig through the history. I don't even know that Peter set up the Roman Church per se. I mean, you could say that, but I mean, Clement was there, of course. But as far as I know, Peter was just in prison in Rome. And,
well, him and Paul were martyred there.
Right. So, and Paul obviously didn't seem to set up the Roman Church, but he spoke to them after the Jewish diaspora. Well, they were exiled from Rome for some years. And of course, as they came back together with the Roman Catholic Church at the time, whatever you want to call it, wasn't necessarily the Roman Catholic Church then, but the Roman Church of the Gentiles, there was a lot of conflict, which is largely where we get why he had to address it in the book of Romans. And most people in the West have no clue about that. They have no understanding of that. And of course, if I'm off there in any way, shape, or form, and you have more knowledge on that, Michael, I would be love to learn. So,
I mean, the more I learn, the less I feel like I know.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good place to be, because that keeps you humble, correct?
Very, very. People think I'm an expert. I'm like, dude, I could never live long enough to read even a small fraction of all the books I want to read. But I mean, from what you're saying, I haven't heard you say anything that I think is incorrect. I mean, Peter was a bishop of Rome, but he was also a bishop of Antioch first.
Right.
And the idea that he, had ultimate authority over every other bishop and was infallible on topic of faith and morals, as the Catholics say, this stuff is just alien to the ancient church. This was not believed by basically anybody until they started making up these new doctrines to give themselves more powers.
Right. And also the idea that he was the leader in Jerusalem, which he initially was in the book of Acts, but really, as far as my understanding is, with the Jewish tradition, James would have been the leader of the Church of Jerusalem because he was the brother of Christ. So,
well, he presided over the council. So this is one of the easy arguments against papal infallibility, is that according to the Bible, Peter was wrong and he was corrected by James and Paul.
Right.
And they didn't just ask him, hey, well, whatever you say is the answer. They called the council, and the council said it seems good to the Holy Spirit and to us that Peter is wrong. So there goes papal infallibility, and there also goes papal supremacy, because you can see this conciliar government style of the church that the Orthodox Church has had since the very beginning of ecumenical councils and little smaller synods as well. It's always been that way for us.
Well, yeah. Is there, Tank, is there anything you want to add or anything you want to ask Michael specifically?
No, I mean, just kind of to this is taking me back, because I don't know if we mentioned this last time you came on, but I grew up Southern Baptist. So I was the most Protestant of Protestants. So Protestant, they've long forgot what Protestant even means. They don't even concern themselves with that word. I remember all these guys who I had a lot of, like, the preachers, growing up, that could, you could call out a verse, in the Bible, like, whatever, something Romans, whatever. And they could, from memory, they'd know it, but they never, ever spoke about early church. They never spoke about, how we got where we are today. And that's kind of why I started looking outside of the Protestant church, because, I grew up in a small town in the Appalachian Mountains, and, we're talking about Galilee and Jerusalem, and I look at the map and I'm like, I'm nowhere near close to Galilee and Jerusalem. So, how did we get where we are today? And, so it just kind of what you're talking about. It's reminded me of bringing back past traumas, I guess.
Hey, I've been there too. Every Protestant is different in terms of what they read, what they're aware of. But I think most of the evangelical types, their timeline of history is basically, I'm trying to get this right on camera here. So there's the crucifixion, right?
Yeah.
And then 1500 years of nothing. And then Martin Luther starts Christianity, right? There's just this big gap that they're not aware of. They don't read. Bill's reading stuff. Lots of Protestants are reading stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't. The Reformers themselves were very familiar with church history. They had the wrong take on it, but they were very familiar with it. It's the modern, the non-denominationals, where you even mention the word Protestant, they don't even know what that is. I've never even heard the word Protestant before.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's because my highest value is truth, and truth, of course, sets you free, as Christ said. And I want to be close with the Logos, and the only way to do that, in my opinion, is to understand the culture, the history, the realities of it, and not the twisting of things that happened over the centuries by men who were in error or who wanted power. And we could talk about the Reformation for a minute and talk about how Martin Luther believed that people should just sin as much as possible so grace should abound, despite Paul saying exactly the opposite in Romans.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Martin Luther, he started off with the right idea, fighting against indulgences in Germany, where the church was basically tricking people into giving them money to build St. Peter's Basilica. But then as the church pushed back on him, the Roman Catholic Church pushed back on him, he pushed back harder, and they just went back and forth. But he didn't start with the intention of starting his own new religion. But that's just, how it ended up, unfortunately. But even he believed in the ever virginity of Mary. He believed in liturgy, the real presence in the Eucharist. So most modern Protestants are very, very disconnected, even from the roots of their own movement.
Yeah, I think so too. They're not. We don't disciple in the Protestant church. And don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not. I don't consider myself a Protestant. I don't really consider myself anything other than a follower of Christ, a bondservant of Christ. But I am deeply fascinated by Orthodoxy because I know it has this lineage and tradition, and it is it is something that isn't well known here. A lot of people in the West have no clue that there's even an Orthodox church in the first place. They don't realize there was a great schism.
Yeah.
Or like the Ethiopian church, the Coptic church is not part of that Roman Catholic society and all. So
I don't think the Oriental Orthodox Church is in communion with the general Eastern Orthodox, is it?
No, they're not. So you guys know Roosh V, right? You guys know Roosh?
Yeah.
So he converted a couple weeks ago from Armenian Orthodox to fully Eastern Orthodox, to Russian Orthodox. And we were on the phone yesterday talking about this. So 99% of what the Oriental Orthodox and what the Eastern Orthodox do and believe is externally identical. The liturgy, the priests, the bishops, all this stuff. It's 99% identical. But that 1% difference in the theology that made them leave the church way back in the day at the Council of Chalcedon, that 1%, even though it sounds like a small number, actually has really drastic effects down the line. And so the image that came to mind when I was talking to him, he liked this image, was if you're a pilot, right? Let's say you got 200 people on a plane and you take off from, let's say, New York, and you're flying to LA. And from New York, you miscalculate where your plane has to land in LA by 1% or 1 degree, let's say. By the time you get to where you're supposed to be, you're going to be hundreds of miles from where you're supposed to be. You're going to crash into a building or a mountain, and everyone on board is going to die. So the point being, little differences over a long enough span of time produce really, really drastic results. And so that's why it's important to have the correct trajectory. And in fact, Bill, you probably would really like this book, actually. St. John of Damascus wrote a book called Exact Exposition of the Orthodox Faith, or on the Orthodox Faith, which was all he was trying to do. He said his goal in writing this was to say nothing new. He wrote this in, I want to say, the 8th century, 7th or 8th century, where all he did was compile what had been believed from the beginning. That's all he did. He didn't add anything. He didn't change anything. He said, here's what has been believed, and here are the people who believed in it. So just a collection of everything up until that point of church history that I think you'd probably get a lot out of, since I know you're studying this stuff and interested in this topic.
Oh, yeah. I've been studying this for 5-6 years now. My problem is, by the way, guys, I switched cameras. I have a camera inbuilt into my computer, hoping this works, even though it's grainy.
That's working better than the other one.
Yeah, I don't know why that's not working right now. It's everything today has been weird with the tech stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I have always had this thing where I wanted to know the origins, the early church and all that stuff, the origins of the church, the history and the culture behind it. I didn't really know where to go to find it. And then there was a gentleman who I think does a decent job named David Berceau. I don't know if you were aware of him, who put out some, he's got a company called Scroll Publishing. And so he prints a lot of things that are like condensed versions of the early church fathers or just quotations about certain subjects.
Cool.
And there's a whole video series he does on YouTube on Scroll Publishing about the early church, and that really got me into it. The thing was, before that though, I wasn't living in the Spirit. I wasn't living in God. I'd say I really wasn't saved. I was living a vile life, and God was pulling at me hard, dude. I mean, it was maddening for a while because I couldn't escape myself, but I had to realize I had to just fall to my knees and submit to him. And as I did that, all this stuff was inundating and pouring into me. And I went through a phase of just high spirituality, just absorbing all this new information. And David Berceau spent time in the Orthodox Church. Now, he's not part of that anymore. He's more of the anti-Baptist movement, where he's more like the Mennonite or Amish or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but still, they still teach what the Orthodox teach, basically. It's just not with the liturgy and all those things. As far as the meanings, the original meanings of the scriptures, that is.
Interesting.
And that's one of the things that like we were saying, the Protestant church just does not have that. They don't even understand how far off base they are sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but there's people that are willing to learn and people that are not. in every group of people on earth, I would say. Like when I do my Bible stream videos on YouTube or talk about the Bible, I know there's a faction of Protestants that are just there to argue, that are not there in good faith. They already believe they know everything. But then there's a lot of them that are genuinely curious, and they're asking me questions, like all the questions that I asked about Mary and about the saints, prayer to the saints and the Eucharist. So those are the people I'm trying to reach. Those are the people that I'm out there looking for.
Yeah, my dad's right now trying to work in a. I think I mentioned to you before. I grew up. He's a minister my entire life, and even though he's from like the Pentecostal side of things, he left all that many years ago. I think I was 8 years old when he left to be independent because he saw stuff they were doing that he didn't agree with, and scriptures that were being twisted and whatever else. And so now he's working in a kind of a local Methodist church because they have a lot of those things, and he's trying to bring, like the Methodists had a really good tradition back when John Wesley had that passion of the Holy Spirit, but it's kind of gone downhill, and they don't understand the Holy Spirit anymore. It's all about it's kind of just all about like learning and doing stuff for the community, which is good, but it's not. You have to have that indwelling of the Spirit. You have to have that passion. You can't be a lukewarm believer, right?
Yeah, God says be hot or cold, but don't be lukewarm,
or he'll vomit you out of his mouth.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier before we started recording that you want to talk about relationships as well. So I would love to get into that topic if you're willing to.
Absolutely, brother. Because I got in an impromptu stream last night, and it kind of got brought up in the chat. And one of the things that I see a lot, and I know you and I have a sort of background in womanizing in our sin, and I feel so heartbroken over all these guys today that are disenfranchised by women. But I think a lot of it's because we don't understand the leadership position we need to hold, and we don't understand how to interact with women. And 100%. So men cede their power over to women, and that's purely from Satan. That is straight from hell.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Give me your thoughts on it.
So when I was a Protestant, you'd hear a lot in regards to a husband's role in marriage as a servant leader, right? And they would always say, you lead by serving, lead by serving, lead by serving, because Christ led by serving. And yes, Christ did lead by serving, but they're missing the other side, was that he also served by leading. So if you're just going to, quote, lead by serving, but you're not actually going to serve by leading, well, then you're just a beta male. You're just following your wife's lead. If you're following her, essentially, right? Whereas you can serve women, or your woman, I should say, by being a good leader who's grounded in God, who's taking care of her soul. I don't want to say like she's your child, but as someone that you're responsible for. It's your job to rule your family, not with an iron fist like you're a dictator or something. But it is your job to be the leader. And if you look at Adam and Eve in particular, Adam lost his leadership when he followed Eve's lead into sin. Whereas what he should have said is no. So I blame, most of the problems in the Western world today, if not the world all over, I'll go with the Western world for now. I blame those problems on men that have forgotten how to say the word no. Because if you give in to everything your girl asks you to do, this, that, the other, because you're trying to like lead by serving, you want to serve by making her happy. But not everything she asks for is in line with your goals for leading a family or in line with God's goals necessarily. And so you have to, what women need is boundaries, because female energy is naturally, chaotic is the right word, but it also is a little bit harsher sounding than I mean. It's free flowing, right? It changes shape and color, and it moves this way and that way. And so the man's job is to put boundaries on that energy so that she can bounce around and free flow and whatnot, but within these boundaries in a way that helps her. This is what I think a lot of guys don't realize. When you're leading your woman and putting boundaries on her, not like chaining her to something and being like, no, blah, 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 but like putting boundaries of energy and godly leadership, you're serving her by doing that. And a lot of men are so afraid of their own power because they've been inundated with feminism and these words like toxic masculinity. They think that a man leading a woman, accepting responsibility for her and saying no or showing her where to go and what to do, that's somehow inherently evil. And so like what you're saying, that is purely from Satan. Satan knows that a strong Christian father is the number one protector against his attacks in the world. So that's why he goes to such efforts to take the father out of the picture.
And right now, feminism, critical race theory, all this stuff is infested in the Western Church. It is,
100%.
yeah, and many of the very strong organizational churches are allowing homosexuality in and all kinds of other sinful things against God's will.
Yeah.
I don't care if, I mean, I care about your soul, but if you want to do those things, you go do your sin, you know. But that is not something to be in the church, and we can definitely know that that was God's intent to excise people from the church if they would not correct their sin, because Paul tells us this in Corinthians. So, and he was so disgusted with the Corinthians that they had not done such a thing to a man sleeping with his father's wife.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. He says not to even eat. Paul says not to even eat lunch, basically, with people that want to be in the church, but they also refuse to let go of their sin, right? There's that whole process of confronting people and trying to help them. But at a certain point, if they're just not going to repent, then first of all, they're not going to take communion, and they shouldn't be welcomed. And that sounds really harsh to people, but it's for their own soul. It's chastising someone for their own good, in the hope that this excommunication will make them feel so bad that they want to be part of the body of Christ. And so they repent and come back. That's obviously always the goal, is for these prodigal children to come back.
You have to allow people to their own devices. And Paul says very specifically to allow them to learn or be purged through hellfire, meaning he wasn't saying in the afterlife, he was saying now that the persecution from evil. It's the story of the prodigal son in some ways, right? So we want them to come back, and after someone goes off and goes away from the faith, if they repent and they wish to come back, they can be accepted back in. But they have to go through that repentance, that changing of their mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you don't excommunicate them from a place of being angry at them or wanting revenge on them. It's from a place of love and dispassion, which is the same reason you would say no to your girlfriend or wife if she asks for something that's bad for you or for her or for the children, if you're married, because that discipline has to be employed by you as the leader, for the well-being of the people that you're responsible for. And whether that's true, whether you're a father and a spiritual father, you're a priest, whether you're a physical father, whether you're both, it's always the same general thing that God does with us both individually and as a people, the people of the church in general. It's always the same, just little reflections of what God is doing with all of us.
Right. And this needs to be understood too, in that the metaphor for your relationship with Christ is a marriage, just like a physical real marriage, a physical union where two flesh become one. And we are supposed to represent, to some degree, Christ in our home, and the rest are supposed to follow. So yes, there is that service, as you said, but there's also strong leadership, and there is chastisement when there needs to be, or boundaries set. And that's a big one. If we're going to just talk in secular terms real quick, if you don't set your boundaries with women, guys, they won't push them as far as possible, and they will not respect you, and you will not respect yourself. And those two things cannot work to have a fruitful, good relationship with any woman. And you would be surprised too. I know a lot of guys complain about the quality of women out there, and I know there's a lot of bad quality, but you would be surprised how much women are starving for strong masculine leadership. That when you present it to them, they fawn over it. Now they might give you a little crap up front and be like, well, try to push you, but if you hold your ground, they'll respect you for it.
They got to make sure that you are who you're presenting yourself as. I've heard a lot of guys get very upset about women testing them, is the more polite way of saying how that phrase is usually worded.
I know. I didn't want
how
to
could they do this? How could they do this? Why are they so rude? Well, first of all, they're not doing it on purpose 99% of the time. It's like a subconscious thing they're doing, and they don't do it around weak men, right? Because they already know they're weak. It's when a strong man is around them. They do that because basically their eggs want to know, does this person have good genes? And their soul wants to know, is this person a good leader? And if they can test you and push you around and you crack or you break, or you reveal yourself to be someone besides who you're presenting yourself as, then they've just learned all the information they need to know about you, and that you're basically a phony. You're trying to trick your way into their eggs is really how I think biology thinks about it. If you're a real guy and these tests bounce off of you and you laugh at them, then that's what makes them trust and love you. They're like, finally, a real man who I can submit to and follow, not because he's forcing me to or yelling at me, but because I admire and love him. That's what the godly submission is. It's not out of compulsion. It's out of love.
Absolutely. Amen, brother. And remember, the Bible says specifically that they are the weaker vessel, and they're the weaker vessel because they're emotional. And, we know scientifically women are more neurotic in general, personality wise, but this is all for their benefit and their good and raising children and rearing them and being good mothers and protectors in that way. But it is our job as men to make sure that they aren't overbearing and doing those things, not suffocating our children, allowing our children to grow and go out in the world and become strong themselves. So these are the things in the dating world that a lot of guys, I don't think they haven't figured out yet. And the only people that I knew that were teaching anything like this were guys teaching game, of course, which I learned back in the day. But the principles apply in some ways. I'm not telling you guys to go necessarily learn game either, but I'm just saying that those guys took psychology from a secular perspective to do this, and they understood it, and that's why they were so successful with women. You don't need to be successful with thousands of women. You only need one. And that's what God wants for you, is one. But you need to learn how to be a man and not be led by a woman, like Michael said Adam did. And that cost us the world and put us in the kingdom of Satan. So
it's the fault of men in society failing their own sons or students, if they're teachers or Christian leaders, quote unquote leaders. The reason guys turn to game to learn about how to interact with women is because they were failed by the men that should have taught them how to do it. So you can't judge these people too harshly for looking at stuff that's talking about things like masculine, feminine dynamics and leadership and submission dynamics and these tests that we're talking about. You can't get upset at people for going to find that stuff where it's being presented, because it's their own fathers that failed to present it to them in a godly, proper way in the first place. And I think the best thing you can do is you not even have to say it. If you're just a masculine role model for your child, they're going to learn it just naturally by the way you interact with your wife and with their mother. They're going to see it, and they're going to become basically little chads, little alphas, without ever having to read a word about game. They never have to pick up a book about it.
And the other issue is that for men, a lot of society tells men that their value oftentimes is had in how much sex they can have. We don't have outlets like we used to, we don't have a monastery like we used to, where like if you were not part of this certain group and you were a man maybe that didn't feel the need to pursue sexual desires like that, you could find fulfillment elsewhere. Which now if you like want to disassociate from society and not worry about sex, not be concerned with that, and not try to find your value in that way, then you're going to be seen as an outcast, and not in the good way.
Well, MGTOW is like a secular version of monasticism. Right? You're not really dedicating your life to anything. You're not interested in the world, but you're not interested in devotion to God either. So it's like halfway between worldly secularism and monasticism in a certain sense.
I saw a meme a while back about a certain Orthodox priest who had never lived outside the monastery, never seen a woman in his life.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty amazing. And there's nothing wrong with celibacy, guys. It's actually really good for you. It'll strengthen you. I promise. It will strengthen your resolve. It'll bring you closer to God if you have strong sexual desires. And I'm an individual. I have strong sexual desires, and that you have to break down and ask God to heal those from you, take those away. What most people do, if they know that, even they go, "Yeah, I know I should, but I'm just going to go do it anyways."
Yeah.
And it can be tough, but as you push forward, as your resolve moves forward, it gets easier. It reminds me of the book, The Imitation of Christ, and how he talks about doing good and being faithful. That is Thomas A. Kempis, right? And doing that everything slowly gets easier. You actually reinforce your goodness, your holiness over time. Much like if you go down the slippery slope of sin, it weakens you toward that goodness, but it strengthens your ability to sin.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a compounding effect. And it's important also because game will teach this dynamic of male leadership, but there's no God involved in it. So a good example of boundaries that a godly man should put in place if he wants to lead a family. Let's say that you're a Christian man, you meet a girl at church, you've been dating for a few months, and she wants to have sex with you, right? She's like, come on, I love you. We've been together for 3 months. I just want to be intimate with you. And if you as a guy are like, yeah, totally, let's do it. Well, you're doing the same thing Adam did with Eve. You're not saying no when you have to. And if your girl leaves because you won't sleep with her before you're married, then you are doing your soul an enormous favor by letting her go. And if you say yes, you've ruined the relationship for both of you.
Yeah, I mentioned something a few weeks back that my wife was embarrassed about that I guess she didn't want. So I'm not going to mention it specifically again, but she brought something up to us or to me when we first started dating. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. That's not going to happen.
Mm.
And then she started thinking about it and she goes, you know what? You're right. And she came back to me like a few days later and I'm like, yeah.
And that's it. You put the boundaries down. And even if she didn't like it in the moment, she came to admire you as a man of God who she could trust as a leader because you said no to something she wanted. So the guys that refuse to say no because they're afraid of being, quote, mean or something, well, you're failing both yourself and the woman in that relationship. And God is obviously not going to bless the relationship where you're fornicating. Because if you're not married, you're fornicating, right?
Right.
If you're having sex outside of marriage, you're fornicating, even if it's with your long-term monogamous partner. So you got to lay down the line, and that is a way that some women will test you. Sure, hey, let's do this.
What did Christ say to the woman at the well that she lived with how many men before? She had several husbands.
It was like 5 or 7. I think it was 5.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh no, how does he know that?"
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, please. But yeah, and part of it, I mean, the Bible says very clearly, man is the head of woman as Christ is the head of man, right? So your relationship with your woman in terms of the submission leadership dynamic is exactly the same as the relationship and dynamic between you and Christ. He needs to be the one putting boundaries on you, and that those are the boundaries that you pass on down that line, right? And if you fall out of submission to God, then why should she submit to you? Now she's just putting herself in danger too.
Well, exactly. And you sanctify each other through your faith. So, and your children. And so to fall out of the faith, if you have children with somebody because you're doing evil things because of your partner, that's not good for your children. You need to maintain your faith. You need to be a solid rock and immovable. And I know it's hard, guys. I know it's very psychologically hard for a lot of people, but that's where getting into the word, getting into the scriptures, and like I said, I'm very much a fan of the writings of the early church fathers. Now, I tend to focus on the first 3 centuries because I think those are more pure than other writings. I'm not saying that the other people later on didn't have revelations or were wrong about things, but I like the fervor of that early church and its growth and the passion of these people, right? And it kind of was before the Neoplatonicism came in and other Greek philosophies, the Stoicism, Manichaeanism, all that stuff that came in somewhat later on. So, at least in my opinion, I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of great resources to recommend.
Well, I was going to push back on that and say I don't think historically, I think that's a common way of looking at things that happened after the 4th century. You often get the accusation that Constantine paganized the church, for example. It's a very common.
Well, I don't believe in that. Yeah.
But I think that if you really look carefully at what the church fathers, even post 4th century, were doing, they were adopting words that were familiar within Greek philosophy, but they were not accepting Hellenism or Platonism. And I know that there are some areas where it looks a little bit blurry. Certain books look a little blurry, but I don't believe that anything pagan crept into the church as a whole.
Well, maybe on the Orthodox side, but I don't know about on the Roman Catholic side, and that's kind of where
Well, do you have like an example that maybe we could talk about?
Let me think of that off, because you did say something and it spurred to mind. But well, I know you're a fan of Augustine, but I definitely think some of his Stoicism and Manichaeanism snuck back into his writings. We addressed this before.
Oh, I agree with that.
And Augustine is he's probably the most influential scholar to the Western Church, early on. I also think that, and I know he was deemed a heretic, but Origen very much, was into that. Also, the Greek philosophy now, if you look at the Catholic Church, again, I think the institution is corrupt, but if you look at the Catholic Church, they teach Greek philosophy and how it is part of the Christian structure. In fact, a lot of churches teach this. A lot of people teach that the faith is based on Judaism, Greek philosophy, and that and whatever else was going on with Christ's teachings in the beginning. I've seen that out of people, is all I'm saying. So,
well, the 3 points you made there, I agree with, because the errors that St. Augustine made, I of course acknowledge those as errors. They didn't become accepted church teachings, though, at least not in the East, at least not in the Eastern Orthodox, like his predestination theories, for example, or his anti-sex, even within marriage attitude, which is a leftover from his Manichaean days. I totally agree with you on that.
Right.
Origen, yes, was anathematized for his Platonism. Because back then there were people trying to like figure out what's what, people that had been trained in classical Greek philosophy, trying to add Christianity to it and figure stuff out. But those errors were separated through the anathemas. And then your last point, Roman Catholicism is largely based on Aristotelian philosophy.
Yes, there you go.
And the East doesn't even have, I mean, you could say we have a systematic, no, we don't really have a systematic theology the way that the West does, because we don't use these Aristotelian categories the way that they do. So there is Greek philosophy in there, but it's not, we like the parts of Greek philosophy that we adopted are certain words like homoousios, like of same nature, to describe the relationship of the Trinity to the members of the Trinity to each other, the person of the Trinity, or the word logos because it's right in the Bible. So John himself is kind of merging Hebrew theology and messianic prophecy with the idea that, hey, this logos you Greeks have been talking about, it's actually this guy over here. Like, this is him in the flesh walking around as a person. So he did kind of marry Hebrew theology with Greek philosophy, but the Hellenism, like the Platonism, that kind of stuff was not accepted. So it's kind of like we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, of Greek philosophy. But I wouldn't say that after the 4th century that it had that the faith had fundamentally changed as a result of it, or anything like that.
Well, I would disagree in the West. I would say maybe in the East it didn't. That's where I would let that lay for me. But again, you would probably know better because you are in the Orthodox Church. There's not really any near me around here. There's one a little bit up the road.
Where do you live again? Where do you live again?
I'm in the Berkeley County, West Virginia, so I'm just south of Hagerstown, Maryland. There's one there, but they weren't open for a long time because of the mandates or whatever. They listened to all that.
Bummer.
There is a Celtic Orthodox church about an hour away from here, but I don't know enough about them. I know Tank's like, what is Celtic Orthodox?
What is that?
I wonder if that's Western Rite Orthodox. It might be a Western Rite Orthodox church, which is basically the same church that the Roman Catholics were doing before the schism. So it will look much more like a Catholic Mass than a Byzantine liturgy. Let me look that up. Celtic Orthodox.
I read a little bit about it back when I was looking for Orthodox churches around here. But
I wonder if that's a real one, or if it's like just using that name. Oh, okay. A small autocephalous church which derives from the church formerly known as the Catholic Apostolic Church. Oh, so it's basically a Western Rite version of Oriental Orthodoxy.
Okay. So
it's not canonical Orthodox. It's like its own little thing. But no, that's not an Eastern Orthodox church, it looks like.
Right.
But actual Celtic Orthodoxy is real.
I would love, now that things are kind of chilling out, maybe to go to the church in Hagerstown and get involved and have my soul edified. Because right now, the other thing with me is I've been in this place for such a long time with the knowledge that I have. I can't go into a Protestant church and stand it because they teach so much heresy in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, Jesse Lee Peterson is probably my favorite heretic, but when he starts talking about theology, it's like whack job level nonsense.
Well, I appreciate his simplicity because I don't in keeping like the children of the lie thing and all that. I see that he understands the idea of the two kingdoms,
and he's good on male leadership and boundaries.
Yes.
And
yes,
he's great with that, like helping the Black community kind of put the men back in charge of the family, because a lot of Black families are led by the women, which causes a lot of, especially the ones where there is no father in the first place. They have no idea who the father is, or they do and he's in prison, or all three potential fathers are in prison. Like oftentimes there's not a male present. So he does do a great job with that.
Well, Michael, thank you for speaking those words, because this was all the things I was going to say earlier today over on All Minus One, and I had a clip with Jesse Lee Peterson talking about some of these things, mainly because he's a big personality, right? But and he does get to the heart of it, I think, that masculine feminine dynamic. So there are other commentators, you know, Tommy Sotomayor talks about this with the black women and the black community. I mean, when I worked in the jail, like the black guys that were in the jail, you know, you talk to them and they'd be like, dude, I don't date black girls because they're crazy. They do all this. Yeah.
Lord,
I mean, yeah. So,
but yeah, then he starts talking, he denies the divinity of Christ, denies the divinity of the Holy Spirit. I mean, these are ancient heresies that were dealt with literally almost 2,000 years ago.
Does Jesse does?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, I've never heard him say that, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah, somebody emailed me a couple of videos of him talking about it. He doesn't believe that the Son of God is also God, and he doesn't believe the Holy Spirit is God. Sadly, that's why I call him my favorite heretic, because theologically he's just way off the radar, off the plantation. But
that's literally right straight out of Genesis, man.
Well, he would, like he says, he's black and slow, so maybe he just needs someone to explain this to him.
Yeah.
If I ever go on his show, which I tried to do before, if I ever go on the show, I'll be sure to confront him on this and try to charitably, you know, correct his theological errors. Because if you put a man in charge of his family, but then lead him away from the divinity of Christ, ultimately you're not doing him or his family a service. You're actually condemning these people by wrecking their souls and separating them from the true Trinitarian Christian faith.
Yeah, I don't watch him often. I didn't know he didn't believe that. That's really interesting.
I can send you the videos after this stream if you want.
Sure, man, absolutely. Yeah.
But he is hilarious. I love watching him like go to the slut walk and confront people with the microphone, and his guests are the way he trolls people. I mean, he really is like the Platonic ideal of trolling. Not to talk about Greek philosophy, but he's really got that down to a T, doesn't he?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with delving. I mean, I love philosophy, but just because I like philosophy and the ideas and I'm fascinated with the humanities, in the end, I always come back to the Bible and Christ and what God says about human nature, because that's God's the one who created us. He knows who we are.
Well, I know this book. I haven't read it yet, but this St. John of Damascus book, in addition to collecting everything from the earlier centuries, also has something called the philosophical chapters. So this might be really a great resource for you. I mean, I can't say for sure because I haven't finished it yet, but it's got a lot of stuff that you're talking about here that you might be.
Okay. Well, hey, man. When you send me that Jesse Lee Peterson stuff, you want to email me that. Email me the name of that book, because I probably won't remember. And anything else you think I might want to read. I'm probably not going to be streaming as much here soon because my wife's about to pop in a few weeks. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting.
I think I've been thinking about getting married and having kids sometime in the relatively near future, which is bizarre to hear me say, but I've really realized, like, I'm the last person on earth I would ever thought would say that, but I've really realized that I don't think you can be fully formed as a man without either being a monk or a father and husband. You know? And that's why the church teaches that either monasticism or marriage; those are your paths to salvation. You know.
Right, and I think that's the same for females. They can never come fully into their womanhood without giving birth. You know, and society's taught.
They could be.
What's that?
They could be.
Yeah, of course. But society's taught they've dedicated their life to God. That's something totally different, right?
Yeah.
They're dedicated to God or to the progenerating the church and creating leaders and all those things that we need. I saw Josh Ryan just showed up. He's a good strong Christian father. So, anyways,
I was just saying, in either case, it's about living for someone besides yourself, either living fully for God or for your family. So that's what gets us that death to self that leads to salvation.
Right. Well, Michael, you said you had an hour. We're about 5 minutes over that. It's up to you if you want to hang out some more, because I love talking to you. But otherwise, I'll let you go, brother.
I could hang out for another 20 minutes or so. Can I just get a quick bathroom break?
Sure, man. Go for it.
All right, I'll show off my Against Heresies shirt on the way out.
Oh, nice! I got that sitting right here. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite books, man.
Yeah, there it is. All right, I'll be right back.
So a little intermission here.
Think we got any chat or anything, buddy?
Nothing's happening in Entropy. I've been talking in chat with someone brought up the Amish, and I remembered a story from like 2011 or 12 where some Amish got raided by the FDA for selling raw milk, and Super Boomer is in the chat being really funny.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the chat. I saw that. I used to go up to PA when I lived in Maryland, to get raw milk for my daughter, and technically I was breaking the law.
International, I mean, interstate law, federal law.
Well, no, it wasn't federal law. It was just Maryland law.
Well, if you go across state lines and bring raw milk back, that's might as well be heroin, bro.
All right. Well, if the feds are watching, statute of limitations, she's almost 17, so I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's up.
Yeah. It's just it's a ridiculous thing. We talk about environmentalism and stuff on this show, and I bring up a lot about what is it? What are those laws? Sanitary laws that the FDA passes, and how for most of human history we didn't have those, and we lived just fine. So yeah, I believe they're up to something.
That's like Joseph Salatin down in Virginia has a big old farm, and he does all of his butchering outside and stuff, and it's super clean. And yet the FDA, they can't find any bacteria at all, hardly at all, on his property. Yet they go into these factory farms and just find it all over the place, and they're okay. So, anyways, Michael's back. So yeah, I do know another book I need to get, Michael, and that's yours, because I haven't had the chance to pick up your books yet. So
well, I'm working on the third one right now. That's actually what I'm going to be doing after I get off this stream. It's going to be a big one, man. It's going to be probably 350, 400 pages by the time I'm done. Been working on it for a while. Took a break during Lent, so I have a lot to catch up on, and it's a difficult project. It's a dense project. But yeah, hopefully that'll be done. I'd like for it to be done by the end of 2021. I think it's doable. I just got the cover in from Fiverr, which is where I go to get my book covers these days, because my main graphic artist stopped responding to emails. A guy I've done work with for years. I don't know, some guy in Turkey.
Oh, really?
Moved on to something else, I guess.
Well, I might have to get in touch with you, because I'm trying to self-publish a sci-fi dystopian novel here.
Cool.
But it's going to have Christian themes and other stuff in it as well, though. So cool. I plan to have that done by the end of the year myself, and I want to make it a sort of series, a trilogy.
Cool.
So yeah, cool. It's about a father and son, and our sins, and sharing our sins, and what happens when we hide them, and it's going to talk about things that are going on in the world now, and how I see the dystopian future. Hopefully the predictions I see aren't going to come true, but
we'll pray that it doesn't. I'll read it when you're done.
I appreciate it, brother. I hope so, because I haven't been working. I was going to school for physical therapy, and then the coof happened, and my wife and I kind of decided that when I was doing security work before, I was working too much. I don't have enough I mean, I could go work at Subway or something. I could go work at McDonald's, no problem. But my skills are like fighting, guns, and religious and philosophical musings. So
there you go.
I don't know how you sell that other than being a writer or something like that. So,
well, if you could handle the weird hours, you could do graveyard security work and just be able to work for eight hours uninterrupted. But it's
I used to do graveyard security work. My last job was that, but I was doing like 12-hour shifts and all. I just think that it's better for me to be home. There was stuff going on, and we can just take it. It's tough. It's a little hard, but it's not the worst. We can take the lower pay for now, not necessarily be worried about materialistic things, and wait. And I know God will bless us, because he told me it's in the scriptures.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main book that I have, I assume you're talking about the Masonry book and not the poetry book.
I saw that you have that, but I thought you had two books on Masonry, right?
So I published a book as a Freemason that was pro-Masonry that has since been unpublished, but Amazon still lists it with my name for some reason. It's like the what's it called? The Truth About the Secret Societies, Freemasons, the Alchemists, something like that, with a purple cover. Now that one's no longer available. No, the only two books I
I didn't know you wrote a pro Mason book.
Yeah, I did.
Wait,
As a Freemason, I did.
let's talk about this for a minute.
Actually, this is what I wanted to talk to Michael
Okay,
the first time he was on about Masonry and the
Yeah.
occult and how that you see that affecting the world today, because I see that as a big part of the kingdom of Satan, if you would.
Well, did you watch that Altion Childs video, that 5.5-hour video that he just put out?
Who's that?
So Altion Childs is an Australian singer who won the X Factor, and he just put out a 5.5-hour video exposing Freemasonry amongst celebrities and actors and musicians and the elite, if you will. He got some of the details wrong. That was strange because he said that he was a Mason or had to be initiated to be famous or whatever. But overall, the picture he was pointing to, I think, was accurate. I'll send you a link to. I'll send you a bunch of links in the.
All right, brother. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm very curious now.
Yeah, it's hard to find a video because YouTube doesn't like it, but I should still have a link to it somewhere. He just shows tons of pictures of celebrities doing like Masonic handshakes and secret society symbols in their.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time, man. I mean, they do it openly, overtly. I often tell people it's part of their religion. You know this, that you're supposed to. You're supposed to do things openly, and then kind of laugh at people when they go, "Oh, you're doing that." And you go, "Nah, you don't know what it is." It's the layers upon layers of esotericism getting down to the real meaning of things, right? Yeah,
and that's what his video is about. And it's I watched the entire thing probably over the course of 3 days because I'm not going to watch 5 hours in one day. Probably 2 hours of it is just showing pictures of celebrities, so you can skip through some of that. But yeah, Masonry, it's like the heresy that kind of encompasses all the other ones that have flooded out into the world. And the institution itself is probably not even that relevant anymore because I kind of see it as their job was already done. Like they achieved their goals of wrecking Christianity in a number of different ways. So the institution now is mostly just old guys. It's not growing.
Right.
But yes, as a Freemason, I did write a pro-Mason book about astrology and Kabbalah and Hermeticism, and even showing, hey, look, even the Mormons, that's all based on Masonry too. Isn't that cool? Like that was my first Mason book. No longer available, but Amazon.
A lot of people don't know that. They don't know that he took the first 3 degrees directly, Joseph Smith did, and put it into their temple rights.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. It's crazy. And also at the time, Masonry was very racist. And I think that crept into the Mormon church as they thought that the mark of Cain was being black. So
there was a lot of people out there who they even justified slavery by saying, well, they're just not elect like we are. So, they're basically farm animals for us to use how we see fit. Too bad they're not saved like us. So people can take scripture out of context and twist it to suit whatever they want it to mean. That's one of the major problems.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we talked about sci-fi dystopias. That's like the I don't know if you like the movie or not, but the Book of Eli.
I did like the movie. I haven't read the book.
Yeah. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, secular people go, "Oh, I don't get it." And it's like, you don't understand. The guy, spoiler alert, guys, if you don't know the movie, I'm going to give you the end. The guy's blind, and it's because God guides him the whole time. Yeah. He's invincible because God is guiding him. But when he stops actually living the word, God punishes him, And
wait, what movie? Die Hard? Did you say it was Die Hard?
The Book of Eli.
Oh! I thought you said Die Hard.
No.
Yeah, Bruce Willis.
No,
Bruce Willis was blind the whole time. That's the plot twist.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was just saying.
Makes sense, but for the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that movie could have been deeper, but it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed and had some decent Christian themes in it. So,
what, Die Hard 2?
Die Hard 33 1/3, brother.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of Hollywood movies are trash, but I watched one last night, a Matt Damon movie called I think it's called The Green Zone, that I actually liked a lot. Have you seen The Green Zone, Bill?
No. I haven't watched a lot of modern movies lately, honestly.
It's basically about the fake intel that led to the Iraq invasion and kind of the aftermath of it. But it's like a dramatization, but it's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think that might have popped up. Did that just come out?
I think it just came out on Netflix, yeah.
I think I saw that pop up somewhere. I don't have Netflix, but maybe on YouTube or something, because they're promoting movies now because they want to be Netflix.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably check it out because my wife and I, a lot of times on Friday evenings, we'll sit around and watch a movie. You know, it's our little date night because we're here all the time. She works from home, so
Yeah, I thought it was good. I like war movies sometimes if they're good ones, like Black Hawk Down or The Green Zone now.
well, you know, I thought it was a little. I liked Elysium with Matt Damon, even though it's preachy and a little like, you know, that the elite rulers would, you know, keep the peasants on the earth this way.
They would.
I know, well, exactly. They do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? Who knows if they already have their own little hotels on Mars for Elon Musk to fly them to? I mean, I don't know. Nothing would surprise me.
You know, I doubt it's Elon Musk. I don't think they like him. But somebody's got shuttles taking them to Mars for sure.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates.
Probably. I mean, nothing at this point would surprise me. Like, I'm sure half of these were exploring Mars missions are just like putting nukes on satellites and weaponizing them. I have no doubt.
Yeah, like those dudes that hang out in space station for like a year.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're not doing anything up there.
No.
It's maybe like some, you know, recon or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing the science in space. Yeah. Okay. Whatever, bro.
Yeah. Weapons science, probably armament science. But you know, the world is temporarily ruled by Satan, but ultimately belongs to God. So Satan can have his way with warfare and corruption until the end, and then the New Jerusalem comes, and then Christ reigns forever.
Amen. Yeah, and that's just it. And so when you said hopefully my predictions of my sci-fi dystopia don't come true, that would be why it wouldn't come true, I would say. What a glorious thing would it be, man, to live. I mean, I know we'll all be resurrected, but to see that while still living and breathing on the earth, I mean,
it'd be amazing.
Yeah,
what,
it would be.
Die Hard 3? I've seen Die Hard 3. It's all right.
Well, thanks for just keep derailing the conversation. Tank, you have something you want to say, buddy?
This is the most I've ever heard him talk. I mean, our first stream, I don't think he said anything the entire like hour and a half or whatever. The man's got a motor mouth today. But at least it's Die Hard jokes.
Yeah,
he does talk. He does talk.
Talk sometimes. You know, I just sometimes the guest and Bill just have a conversation, so I just let it ride. I don't want to ruin a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that my talks are so bad. You're welcome. You feel free to interrupt with Die Hard jokes.
Well, yeah, okay.
Insults and humiliations, man. Bring them on. Bring them on. It's good for my soul.
There actually is a reason why I'm bringing up Die Hard. It's a very stupid reason, but I was talking to my friend the other day who I haven't talked to him, and he's one of my best friends, but I haven't talked to him in probably, I don't know, 8 months or so, and he called me, and we remembered about, I don't know, 8 years ago, we were walking in a mall, and this guy was like, "Hey, we'll pay you $5 to sit down for this survey in the mall," and we're like, "Okay, yeah." And it was for a movie trailer. We were like selected to look at a movie trailer before it was released and basically give our opinion on it. And it was like Die Hard 7 or something. It was like one of those recent ones, right?
Nice.
And my buddy, like I didn't know what he was watching because they split us up. So I'm in there watching Die Hard. I'm like, I don't know if he's watching Die Hard or not. He might be watching a different movie. And I just hear we're in like little cubicles, you know, like we're not separated by a lot, but I can't see him. And I just hear him yell, "Yippee-ki-yay, mother effer," like across the room. And I was like, oh, so he was watching the Die Hard too. And that's all he said. That's the only question. They asked him one question. He yelled that and left. So, I don't know. It just reminded me of that story.
That's the way to do a Die Hard survey. That's the way to do a Die Hard survey.
Hey Michael,
yeah.
Something from the chat real quick. It says Christian Jr. Jr., I guess. I don't understand all these people who claim to be Christians and still enjoy Hollywood. Maybe they're just ignorant. You got any take on that?
Well, I mean, if we were being perfect Christians, we would never watch any movies besides purely Christian ones. I acknowledge that. I know that. The church fathers would have said the same thing, not to go see shows in the theater and whatnot. But I'm not a perfect Christian. You know, part of I work, I go to church, I do all this. The time that I have for leisure, sometimes I'll watch a movie, but I try to avoid the really bad stuff, you know, not to justify my own sins, but I'm not going to watch like.
Yeah. My answer is this. Christ was accused by the Pharisees and the Sadducees that he allowed his people to eat with dirty, unwashed hands. and he said it's not what goes into the body, but what comes out that matters. So that would be my answer, partner.
Okay. I didn't realize how many people there were in the chat. It was set to private chat, which for some reason didn't click with me. I thought that was like comments. I was like, oh, I guess no one's watching. But then I realized there's a separate tab that has a whole bunch of stuff here.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm watching, I have the YouTube stream up. It's a little bit easier to follow that and all, but yes.
So before I head out, I wanted to ask you guys, are you aware of the Trad Forum that's coming up in a few weeks? And if so, are you planning on attending?
The Trad Forum?
Yes.
Like traditional, like trad thing?
Sounds like a no. Okay, so the Trad Forum.
Yeah.
So an Orthodox Christian who's running for Congress in West Virginia named Michael Sisko is hosting a Trad Forum in Argos, Indiana on June 12th. I will put the link here. So there's a bunch of traditional Christian speakers. I'll put it in the comments here, or in the private chat rather. So I will be giving a lecture. Dr. E. Michael Jones will be giving a lecture. David Patrick Carey, Luke Kendrat, Michael Sisko, a couple other people too. Roosh V will be attending, as I just discovered yesterday. So what did I say? June 12th, Argos, Indiana. It should be a pretty fun event with a lot of different people. If you want to come network, if you want to come meet me or any of the other speakers, faces you've seen on YouTube before, people whose books you may have read, it'll be a great chance to come meet us all and talk to us and hear some cool speeches that should be edifying and helpful for people of the traditional Christian current of thought, so to speak.
Yeah, I would love to go to that, Michael. My wife is due that week, so she might go longer, but we're also doing a natural birth at a birthing center, and I'm going to be there helping her the whole time. So, yeah, just not possible for me, but I would love to stay informed and, of course, continue this kind of dialogue with you on occasion. And what district is he in? Because I know you asked me before. I'm in the 2nd congressional district.
He's in the 1st congressional district, if I'm remembering correctly. But he was also trying to figure out which one to run in. Depending on what would make the most sense. I won't say more about what's going on behind the scenes too much because I'm kind of helping him out a little bit where I can with like opposition research and things like that.
Right.
But I believe he's running in the 1st district.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would endorse him if he's a faithful man and everything else. And we don't have enough of those in the swamp. And the very few that I know that are at least decent politicians for the people are being attacked often and sent powdery substances. I'm actually, I'm actually not members of the Paul family, so that it's pretty horrid for the death threats and the things that happened to him. And he tries to hold back this tyrannical government that's building up. But
well, hopefully we will have the speeches filmed. That something I've been pushing for, so that people who aren't able to make it for one reason or another will at least be able to see them later. Maybe they'll be sold as a, video product for 10, 20 bucks. I don't know what the plan is yet, but hopefully we'll get it all filmed and all the speeches will be good. So yeah, I can send you his, let me see, his website, Bill, if you want to check out Sisko's page. Oh, here it is, Cisco2022.com. Yeah, I'll put that in the private chat too.
Yeah, and I do want to get more involved with these things, and it's a big thing that we try to do on this channel and over on my lone channel, All-1, is that we want to build communities and build people up and prop people up and get them a good perspective about what's going on in the world, build up their faith, build communities, because I'm an advocate of having, breakaway societies, getting away from all this stuff, because the cities and the things that are going on are really, really horrible right now. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon until basically the wheels fall off, right? So, and I hate to sound cynical, but that this is just the way of the world, guys. We live in the kingdom of Satan. That, you can be part of the kingdom of God, but Satan is the God of this earth. That is, otherwise, how could he have offered it to Christ?
Yeah. So, but last thing I'll say before I head out here, I see a comment. Someone says, Michael, I visited the Scottish Rite building in Guthrie, Oklahoma, just the outside to see it. Super creepy. Curious if you've ever been to it. Yes, I watched all 32 degrees of the Scottish Rite in that building in Guthrie, Oklahoma, except for I think the 9th because I was asleep in my car because it was like 3 10-hour days of masonry, just nonstop degrees. Yeah, Guthrie, Oklahoma is like this little nowhere town, and then in the background, this gigantic Masonic temple that's filled with, like, there's an Egyptian room and a Phoenician room and a Babylonian room, and it's got all these statues and paintings and things from different cultures. I don't know where they got the money for that because Guthrie, Oklahoma is not exactly like rolling in dough. I think it was an old state building, perhaps like the old seat of the government there. But yes,
one real quick, the weirdest masonry story I have. So I went to a very small town in one of the Carolinas. And you know, it's one of these like drive-through kind of places. It's barely on the map. It's got like 300 residents. It's surrounded by a moat. It's not, they don't call it a moat, but it's basically a moat. And it's like on a hill. There's like 300 residents. It has its own elementary, middle, and high school for these 300 residents. There's different schools. It has its own hospital for 300, and you don't see that, like something that small. Like you could be born there, live there, and die there, and never have to leave that little town. It had its own Freemasonry building there.
Sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very big or anything, but I was like, this is a very small town to have this many, accoutrement.
Who knows what's going on there? If they're like breeding children and educating them in special occult schools, who knows? Anyways, thank you guys for having me on. I do got to get going to work on this book, but
we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. When I get done with it, I'll be happy to come on and chat with you guys if you'd like. Send you a copy or something. But yeah, thank you all for having me on. Always a fun time, even if Tank's derailing it with diehard jokes. So, all right, I'll see you guys later.
All right, thanks.
All right, man. God bless.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Yep. Yeah, Orthodox Pernesis. I mentioned that earlier in the stream. The Orthodoxy and Kingdom of Satan. So yes, I have a copy of that. I actually do. I might as well be an Orthodox, I guess. I just don't go to.
It's time.
Yeah, I just don't go to liturgy. So. But I haven't had an opportunity to really. I don't know where I would go. There's not a lot of them around in my area.
If you were stuck in the top of Nakatomi Plaza, would you just not go out? Or would you get out any way you could, including rappelling down the side? That's the way you got to think about it.
Okay.
Just because the terrorist shoes don't fit doesn't mean you don't walk across the broken glass.
There you go. I kind of. Oh, you're welcome for the stream, bud. We're gonna keep her. Kristen, I guess you're a lady. Sorry if I keep calling you a man. We appreciate you guys coming in and watching. I really like Michael and his work and his stuff. So, we often talk about the secular world. That's what we do here. We're sussing out the things that are going on in the world, and we're making fun of them too. But we're trying to do it from, to some degree, Christian perspectives. And we know not everyone who listens to us are believers either. But I think it's hard to deny, if you're an honest actor, it's hard to deny how scary and right the Bible is about the character of human nature. So it is useful, at least in that sense, if you're a secular person. But I do wish you all would come to Christ, of course. So I don't know, Tank. I don't know, after all that, if I feel like doing memes.
We don't have to do memes.
I know. Let's just talk for a little bit. I got memes lined up, but we can do memes when we come back on Sunday. We will do a Sunday show this week, right?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so that'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern. So, guys, I did want to talk about this, some housekeeping, and that Tank made this Mortal Kombat meme, and or not meme, intro to the Memecast News, and it spurred to mind how we could do a call-in show. And so I want to do a meme war show, and we're going to figure out a way using locals or something that you all can send in memes, and then those who win the meme war will be able to come in and talk with us for a few minutes, like maybe 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And we'll just cycle through a couple meme wars like that for the show. And that way it gives us a chance to vet the memes, so we're not putting up stuff that's just way too spicy. You know, we can hear from you all, because again, we want to build communities. We want to interact. So,
but if you make a meme that's so good that you win, and you come on and we say, congratulations, you won. Tell us what's on your mind. And you're like, oh, not much. Like, I'm going to be upset. So like if you're going to go through the trouble to make a meme, come on and talk about Die Hard, like anything.
Right. Yeah. We're open. We don't reject anyone unless they start getting out of line, basically. And I understand too, not everyone has the gift of speech. I don't consider myself the most articulate person either. They're way better speakers than me doing this, right? But here I am because I'm compelled to do it, and I feel like this is part of my talents that I need to do for the body of Christ. So, Tank, you got any thoughts on what we're talking about today, man? Or
it's a lot of stuff. It's a nice change to talk about this kind of topic versus all the shit that's going on in society. It's like I was saying earlier in the stream, I get really cynical. And this makes me less cynical to talk to people like Michael and to have a lot of people here in the chat that are, we're just talking about religion, and a lot of people are Orthodox, and that's cool. I'm Orthodox. I'm a convert myself, so I appreciate that. But anything that you can latch onto that will get you through the day to help you in this world, that's good. I mean, don't be like a Satanist or anything, but I mean, like be Christian, but I'm not trying to get all hippy dippy about it, but meme Lord Combat. Oh my God, yes. I'll make a new thing sounder for it. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, it's nice to have people on and talk about things we can do to make ourselves better. That's where I'm going with this. Don't be a Satanist or like a Buddhist or anything.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't focus, I always talk about it. If you guys watch me on All-1, I talk about Christianity a lot. But the only reason why I don't make this show purely a show about Christianity is because I want it to be open to a lot of folks. And there are a lot of folks that would be our allies in the fight against evil, whether they are in the faith or not. That is the evil encroachment of the cynical things going on in the world right now, right? Yeah. So, real quick, Joshua Ham, we will get you back on, buddy. And the main reason that I wanted you to come on is because you are a very articulate fellow, and you do have a very commanding voice. And I know that you have good beliefs because I've listened to you speak. And I hope that you could be an inspiration to people as well. So we'll reschedule you. Right now, I have Wes Waverland for next week, and I'm working on some other folks, but I'll figure it out because soon Holly's going to be my co-host for 2 weeks, Tank?
Yes.
Okay.
2 Wednesdays. I'll be back on a Sunday, but yeah, 2 Wednesdays.
Now, this is also, mind you all, if my wife doesn't go into labor all of a sudden, because sometime between the 14th and 2 to 4 weeks after the 14th, she's going to go. So it could maybe be longer, but usually they don't go that late past their due dates.
Well, luckily, we don't have to apply for time off. We can just not stream, and people just have to get over it.
Right.
It's all about goodness in this evil world. Yeah, it is. Apparently goodness and raw milk, because that's been the 2 topics in chat today. It's Christianity and raw milk, which, again, I fully support. You should be drinking raw milk if you can get it. If you are the type of outlaw heathen that would purchase such a product, then yeah, you should get it.
Real quick, guys, too, those of you who aren't regular viewers here, I do want to remind you, we do have links in the description for D-Live and Entropy. Entropy is a way you can donate to us. Tank and I split it. Well, we haven't split anything yet. The money's just sitting there. But it's meant to be split down the middle for us. So if you guys want to support us in any way, shape, or form, that is always appreciated. But the biggest thing you can do is like, share, subscribe. You know, the thing. Seriously, though, that helps boost us up. It helps this channel grow. We haven't been doing this for a year yet. We're nearly at 300 subs. It'd be great to get there. And in fact, you know, just for backup purposes, once we're at 300 subs, unless Odyssey's changed their policies, we should be able to back up automatically to Odyssey. So
yeah, I would like to get off YouTube as quick as possible myself. I know that's not be a feasible option in the future, but I don't think it's. You know, I don't think it's great. And I have a normie job, and you know, so there's all those issues that you have to deal with.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with working with YouTube as long as possible because it's where the audience is. It's the most accessible to people. It's where most people go. But yeah,
so they're going. That's what we're saying. Stop going to YouTube.
Yeah, at some point though, they will absolutely outright not allow us to talk. They took down our stream last week because of
YouTube got weekly narrative. Osis just said that YouTube got weekly narrative.
No, they're up. I think they're just on a strike, though. I haven't talked to.
Oh, okay.
I haven't talked to Jeremy, but did they stream last night, Osis? Because I missed it and I never saw it and I looked it up, but his channel's still there. I mean, I could text Jeremy right now and find out, but don't really feel the need to bother him about it. Dahari says last night. Yeah, did you guys catch the stream last night? Because I don't know if they streamed or not. Okay. Yeah, he might be on a strike, dude.
Steed Rock.
Yeah, and I had one before, but anyways, they took one of our video down last week, but gave us no warning or no strike, so we were okay. You know, it's because of child safety, and I think it was because of the Soph video I played with the you know, sex changing children, which makes me wonder what's going to happen here in June when Pride Month comes up and we have all these videos of children in the street. Is that going to be child endangerment then, or are they isolating us because we're of traditional values? So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know.
No stream misinfo strike. Yeah, so you get 3 strikes. So it's 1 week. The last one he had was a warning.
Misinfo strike? That's a thing?
Yeah, because Jeremy likes to talk about science a lot, and science is not, you know, allowed today unless it's the science that they deem correct. That was going to be some of the memes that we had today, but I'll run the memes Sunday.
I didn't know that was a strike you could get, a misinfo strike. So wait a minute. So the people that were getting presumably misinfo strikes for saying that COVID-19 was leaked from a lab, there goes our misinfo strike. Are they going to renegotiate those misinfo strikes because now Fauci's like kind of saying that's kind of a thing?
Right, and this was part of our memes tonight, and I have too many of them that they try and get through in 20 minutes, guys. So, but yeah, and Fauci's flip-flop left and right and everything else. He's finally sort of admitting to the gain-of-function stuff. So there is all that. It's really not even about misinformation or not, right? It's just about control and them deciding what the information is. Just like Project Veritas came out with the other day, that Facebook knew things were factual and we're still censoring it. Because it's about narrative. And of course, that's what Jeremy and Delaney do. Maybe I'll see if they want to come on, but they should only be on a week strike because I think that's his first one. No, she's out for 2 weeks. Someone said last night too, I think when I was on Sniper Stream, that she was yeeted from Discord as well.
Yeah.
But her server's still there. So I don't
hopefully
engage a lot on
Entropy.
those forums. I just mime memes. So
Hopefully Entropy will get their stuff running. And then like when people like Jeremy Delaney get misinfo strikes, we can live stream with them on Entropy and not have to worry about dealing with YouTube.
Right. And Entropy is setting up like their own direct streaming. I think Don was beta testing it, but Don disappeared too. I'm not going to get into why or why not or speculation, but Don has stuff going on, so he's not on. Hasn't been on right now. I do have one meme. I would like to play, Tank.
Well, pull it up. Do you mean play the sounder, or do I need to?
Nah, you don't need to do all that. I'm getting it up right now, so I think this might need to be our new beginning to the Memecast news, actually.
Okay. Josh Ham, I'm on my way home from vacation, so I'm available whenever you are, Bill. Give me a call when you're able tonight.
Yeah, buddy. I'll
vacation. Vacation.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. Oh my God! Yes, I can. If I can figure out how to video edit good enough to change some of these letters, which I probably won't, but it'll be shitty, but I'll still use it.
Well, it has a watermark on it. I mean,
yeah, whatever.
So, but yeah, I mean that was brilliant, was it not?
That's fantastic.
I was going to let you play the sounder and then play that right afterwards.
Yeah.
Hold on. I guess I can look at a few. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, this is a good one. You'll love this.
National order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign. And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build.
Who the fuck is we, Barack Obama? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Gone and Tank goes straight to cussing.
I'm so sorry. I really need to stop. I'm really bad about it, guys. I have a.
It's his profession, guys. It's his profession. Yeah. I'm the same way. You can't be a Marine and work in a jail for years and around all that and not pick up the bad mouth.
I mean,
you can, but it's hard. It's hard.
I feel so bad. My mom calls me and I just like let them roll. And she's like, I mean, I know you're upset, but you shouldn't say those words.
Well, Tank, you got this too, man. So I did pick this one up for you.
Birthday with salutations. Happy birthday, may your stars stay blue. Happy birthday to you.
How he's 78? Wow, he's getting it.
42. Hey, I got a bunch of stuff, man. I was gonna get on the women thing, the whammon thing. I'll show a few. We'll just run them all again Sunday, I guess. But trade-off. I received the presidency. You received no job, no gas, no menthol cigarettes, no coherence, no mean tweets.
Oh my God! Who was I talking to the other day? A friend of mine. We were talking about Trump and politics, and I said that really the worst thing about this cultural revolution we're in is that the purity spiral has gone so insane that people are just going to not appreciate the funniest president we've ever had. And to me, that's probably the biggest sin of all this is that like, here's this guy now, Donald Trump was in the White House tweeting and people are so like stick in the muds about it. They can't appreciate that.
But he was largely ineffectual because he kept putting people in his administration that weren't with his ideals. And,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, his Secretary of Defense and all that basically told him, no, F off. We're not pulling out of Afghanistan or doing anything else. And he didn't do anything about it. It's stuff like that. And when he hired John Bolton, like I've always said, I'm not the biggest Trump fan or supporter, but I appreciated the guy being a wrecking ball to the system. So that was generally been my take on it. Now he did do some good stuff. Some good stuff did happen, but bottom line is the system is deeply entrenched, and it's like someone I don't really do the internet Twitter stuff very often, but someone was talking about the investigations of Matt Gaetz started underneath the Trump administration. I'm like, what does that matter? The DOJ, the DOJ is corrupt, guys. The FBI, all those organizations are corrupt. Just because they might have been, because Bill Barr was kind of an honest dude, doesn't mean anything. If the DOJ wasn't corrupt, Antifa wouldn't exist. All right,
that's like when people say, well, even Republicans, blah blah blah. I'm like, all those guys are snakes. What are you talking about? Well, even I know Republicans that didn't like Trump. Fuck them. Like, yeah, so what? Like, just because they're a Republican doesn't mean anything. That's just a name on a piece of paper. I know plenty of people that were like normal dudes, Republicans, that were like anti-Trump, and they will all gladly vote for Democrat now. So who cares? Like, whatever. Yeah,
deep fake for the Obama thing. I think that probably is too, but I liked it. It didn't matter if it was or wasn't.
To be honest with you, I probably liked a lot of things that are fake.
So yeah, man, I don't know. Anybody got any questions in the chat or anything over on Entropy Tank?
No, really. Only the Dawn crew gets an Entropy, and there's not many showing up tonight. So we don't have much going on in Entropy. We do have a locals guy. We have a locals. I don't do the social media stuff very much, but in my eyes, locals looks like the most promising for whatever we are, whatever you want to call this.
Can you put that in the chat real quick?
I will. Chat? Yeah. We. Oh, what's that? No, I don't want to search for that. No. Let's go here.
Because if I put it in there, I don't know if the link will stay. I don't know how it's.
I don't really know how to work it yet. It's still under construction, but I'm trying to figure it out because I think it's probably one of the better platforms. I like Minds a lot. I like the idea of Minds, but a lot of the people on Minds are just really obnoxious, and so I think a lot of people's not going to go there because of that.
My thing is I spent too much time in the past on internet stuff.
Yeah.
Like now, like I watch and listen to a lot of stuff or I'm reading or whatever, but that's all in the background where I'm doing other things. I'm not sitting here all day long.
Yeah.
The only time I'm sitting here is when I'm setting up the show or doing it or the live streams I do on All Minus One or have been doing. Oftentimes if someone ends up pulling me in onto their show, like I was on the Sniper's Nest last night, I'm doing it from my phone. I'm not sitting in front of a computer all the time, guys, which is, if you're in like Don's server, people ask me about, why get in the server. It's like, dude, it doesn't work on my phone. I don't know why. And I know there's an app for it. I can't get it to work. I can't get it to work on my Chrome. I can only run it on Opera on my computer. And then today I've had all these tech issues. OBS was crapping out on me. It might have been the weather here, but I don't know why that would affect OBS because my internet seems to be fine. Now my camera wasn't working. I just switched to the inbuilt camera on this, which is not as good, but whatever. You guys don't need to see every pore and line and whatever else in my face either. So just saying, things happen and I'm doing this again because I'm compelled to speak and help organize these things. And I just can't stay silent with this madness going on in the world today. So, for the last year, we've been building this, not even a year yet. It'll come up a year for me next month, the end of next month. And then this show, Tank, when was our first show? September?
Yeah, I think so. September.
Yeah. So
it is what it is. It's really my only goal in all this is to bring people in to talk about stuff. So if we can, if it's going to be locals, then we'll use locals. If it's going to be Entropy, then we'll use Entropy. There's this new platform called MySpace I just created. I'm putting us on. So we'll see how that goes.
Does MySpace really censor anything since it's like?
We should all migrate to MySpace.
I think we
Let's see
should.
what's going- Oh my god.
I think
They
we should.
probably don't censor anything. It's still up. I'm on MySpace right now. I think especially music and stuff, but I do videos. Hell,
But you guys should
watch
go over to the locals right now.
videos.
There you go.
We're going on MySpace.
Right now, though, you guys, if you're in the chat and you're regular viewers of ours, or you liked our show and you are going to return, please go over to the locals and sub to that. I have one of my own, but I haven't been doing much with it lately because I've been doing nothing but live streaming in preparation for the babe. So, oh, Facebook owns them. That's right. That's right, Tank. Facebook owns MySpace.
Oh yeah, then we're not gonna get on MySpace. Maybe a live journal. I'll just transcript the whole podcast. And
Well, there are places. So there's Freedom Cells I mentioned the other day. Do you know about them?
Mm-mm.
Let me see if I can pull the link up here real quick.
The main issue with a lot of this stuff is that it takes so much videos or server space to host videos, and I really think
PeerTube's easy, dude. I was using that as a backup forever.
PeerTube's,
yeah, PeerTube has independent servers. They're unfederated. It's awesome.
Maybe we'll look into that. Because that's really in my eyes anyway. That's the problem with trying to compete with YouTube is they have Google behind them. They've got a shit ton of money, and BitChute doesn't, and whatever. Holly's got a locals page. Look, if Holly can figure it out, anybody can.
Well, I think Jeremy was using his pretty well. I don't know if he kept promoting it or not, but why can't I find the link? There it is. No, that's Citizens for Free Speech.
GeoCities. I got an Angel Fire webpage for the podcast.
Here, Tank. I'll put it in the private chat because I can't put links in the regular chat because you have the power.
Do I?
I mean, I could switch my account real quick to the Ends Justify the Memes, but
the weirdest thing about that strike we got, right, is I only log into the YouTube to stream from StreamYards. I don't go to the YouTube page. So I have not changed the settings for how we stream. And we got that strike for what? Harming children or something.
It wasn't a strike. They just took it down.
Yeah. So that must be new because we've played Soph and stuff before, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's because there was a cross-dressing child in the background or something.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I can imagine. Yeah, my camera's not working again.
Yeah,
Man.
it's been freezing up.
It's my system today, dude. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I have too much stuff on here. I'm pretty sure this is one of those hard drives you don't defrag, so I'll figure it out.
I don't think anyone's defragged since 2003.
I know. That's what I'm saying. No one has to defrag anymore. So, I'm sort of back.
If a boomer can do it, Holly, you're not a boomer. Like a Gen X. Holly, she's not boomer, is she?
No, she's a Gen Xer like me. Gen Xers unite.
We're going to the Pearl Jam show.
ICQ for chat? What's that?
I don't even know what that is. Freedom Cells.
I always have a weird look whenever there's a still shot of me. Like seriously, like so if you upload stuff to YouTube and you're trying to pick, a shot, it's always me going, well, you can't see me right now. Hold on. I'll do it now because I'll make fun of myself. I don't care. But it's always like I'm always doing something like that.
Some weird open mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Freedom Cell?
Well, Freedom Cells is a unfederated network to communicate with. I haven't really used it much, but I've looked into it. And this is because I happen to follow certain folks that like the Corbett Report, who promotes stuff like this. So I don't watch him all the time, but it is a peer-to-peer, decentralized way to communicate and organize things. So maybe this would be the way we would do it. I don't know. We will figure it out. Am I running 10 or 7? This is 10.
I'm running 3.5.
I wish I was running 7. I like that better. No, this is whatever. Is Windows 10 the most updated Windows?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what I'm using.
That's definitely what I'm using.
Windows 10. All platter style drives benefit from I didn't know that. I thought they stopped doing. You stopped having to do defrag like 8 years ago. Mine is a solid state drive, I believe. I run everything off a laptop. That's why when we were doing OBS, it was a disaster because my little machine can't do it. StreamYard is lightweight though, so it does pretty easy.
Yeah, and OBS isn't much of an issue for mine normally, but today it was. Today it was just the fan was running and it was getting crazy, and I didn't even have like a bunch of tabs pulled up or anything. It was really weird.
So when I was using OBS, it was the streaming is what ate up so much. If I was just recording, it wasn't bad at all. Was there a 3-point provider or a 3? I don't know if there's a Windows 3. I made that number up. I don't know anything about computers.
You were talking to the least techies of techies, guys.
Yeah.
We don't know how we do this, but we do it. As Holly told me earlier today, it's a black box, right?
Yeah.
Who knows how it works? My computer is
MS-DOS.
literally a black box. I have a HP all-in-one Envy.
So funny thing, Holly. At my job, I have to use MS-DOS daily. Just to put that into perspective, I use a DOS program every single day.
Yeah, Windows 10 took defragging off the menu. Yeah, because you can't do that with a steady state, if I'm not mistaken, right? But the defrag was good. It always made things run smoother eventually. The compress and defrag, but that might be a thing. It might be for some reason my RAM's not processing enough because I have too much stuff in the background because I have a ton of stuff saved on here. But I have all kinds of external hard drives that I can move things to as well.
Could be your shitty attitude, you know?
Right.
It could be that.
It's Jesus magic to spread the word.
I guess, yeah.
I think it's just a testing of my resolve. So,
well,
all right, guys. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour here, so I think we're going to get out of here, right, Tank?
we are going to get out of here.
All right. Well, Tank, do you have anything to shill?
Me and Abby Shapiro is getting married, so everyone's invited to the wedding.
What does your current wife think about this?
She's not real thrilled with the idea, but she'll come around.
Well, there you go. All right, guys. Well, I should be back over on All-1 at 3 p.m. tomorrow if I can work out my tech issues. And I'm going to go with what I was going to go with yesterday, more or less, and delve into more of this this perspective of men leading, men taking charge, and quit giving their power over to women like Adam did with Eve. So we're going to go down that road. We're going to go read, what is it? I always forget the name of this thing. What is it? The Discourse of Political Servitude by Etienne de Bonte or Bonta. I don't know. I don't speak French, guys. But he wrote this in 1577, and it's a treatise on basically how we enslave ourselves to these tyrannical authorities. And then I'll read some more of Bastiat, as I've been doing. Maybe we'll play Heaven on Earth. We're saying, Holly, oh, maybe your computer is female. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is. So I should be there at 3 p.m. If not, I'll make a little video or something to let you guys know that I can't stream. Otherwise, we'll be back Sunday at 3 p.m. with some memes, and we're going to figure out this meme war thing, maybe, hopefully, between now and then. If not, you can catch us showing memes and talking about whatever we want to talk about. And then we'll be back next week with Wes Waverlin at 7 p.m. Eastern. So that's it, guys. That is the show. This has been the Ends Justify the Memes. Thank you for watching. And remember, the ends always justify those memes. Play the outro, bud.